Shri Gurubhyo
Namaha.
Shri
Harihi
Om.
Om. Atha. Susayam Sarvebhyaha. Good evening to everybody. And we have been looking at the sounds and all in the previous lesson. We just started with the alphabet. So I thought we can take that a little further today. But also to add the fact that when we are doing these sounds or when we do mantras, or just even a simple thing like Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, looking at the world from a sound perspective, one recognizes the fact that a particular vibration has been emitted. When we make that same vibration, we are adding to that existing vibration. So it swells, like, so there is like a brihat that happens. So even these offerings, these salutations that we are doing of Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha, these have been coming down to us from ages and ages and ages. So when we offer our salutations using these particular words, from a sound perspective, we are riding on an existing sound wave, and that's what happens with the mantra. So when we chant the Gayatri mantra, for example, which is being recited by literally millions of people across the globe every day, and for the past I don't know how many millennia. So when we recite the Gayatri mantra, it is never just our individual sound that is being uttered. It is a sound that is connecting with the whole tsunami of this mantric vibrations that have been coming down, passed down to us from generations, across civilizations, across time spans. So it's quite amazing, and therefore, what is our contribution to that, and what are we adding on? The same thing goes down to the same thing goes down to the fact of the Sanskrit alphabet itself. And I will just try and open up my thing here. So I'll start sharing the screen, and I will show you this. So the last time we looked at the alphabet, so what I would suggest that another thing that we do is maybe just to start with, we can look at the different places of pronunciation. So one of the things was we saw that since it is doing a systematic touch of all the different areas of our vocal system, it is also stimulating all those parts in the brain, those corresponding parts in the brain, which in turn stimulate all those parts in the body. So the other aspect of this is that it's not just the sound factor, because each of these sounds also means something. So it seems to be a collective movement of the right and the left brains. Okay, it's not just producing the sound from one part of your brain in terms of the linguistic aspect, but there is also an image that is associated with them and an experience that is connected with them. So uttering of the Sanskrit alphabet has a very holistic impact on our being. And I wanted to also show you today the rearrangement of those letters by the. This always does this. Just one second. Always when I open this one up, it does something funny. Ah. Okay. I'll just open this up. Huh. Technology decides to do its own thing. Astu. And then I'll open it up elsewhere. Ah. So, Atra, we were looking at this, and what I'd like us to do is maybe just repeat the Sanskrit alphabet once. So, let's just do it as a mantra thing. So, just close your eyes and allow the sounds to go down the different parts of the brain, and also to be conscious of the places of pronunciation. Huh? So, with the chakra system. So, the other day I was reading this, and then the other day I was reading a book, the 4 chapters on freedom, which is a commentary on the Yoga Sutras. That it's by the Bihar School of Yoga. So in that they were talking of the fact that when we are doing these different letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, but they didn't talk so much of the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. They were talking of the fact that with the Mooladhara, it's connected to the earth element, and then the fact that you have at the Kantha, the Vishuddha is connected to the Akasha element, which is connected to the sounds, the original vibrations of the different vowels, etc. There's somebody who's annotating. I would request you to stop annotating on the document. All right. So what we see is with the Sanskrit alphabet, when we are starting from the Akasha, we are again doing this movement from subtle to gross, and then we are pushing it up back in the Ajna. So it's a very powerful movement of energy circuiting with breath, with touch, etc. So let's do it once. You can even keep your eyes open or eyes closed, but just remember that the first 16 are in the throat, the next 12 till thumb are in the heart, the next 10 till phum are in the navel, the next 6 till lam are in the swadhisthana, and below that you have sham, sam, and then hum, ksham will come up to the ajna. So let's do it once. So close your eyes. Repeat after me. Im, im, rim, 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 aim, I'm, aum, ah, come, khum, gum, ghum, ngum, chum, chum, jum, jhum, nyam, tum, thum, dum, dhum, num, tum, thum, dum, dhum, num, pum, phum, bum, bhum, mum, yum, rum, lum, vam, shum, shum, sum, hum, ksham. And the other aspects of these sounds are that the Sahasrara has all the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. So it really is this all the letters, all the possibilities that exist in the para level, in the above, and that gets channelized through the ajna, through the kantha, and goes down to the system and again rises up. So it's an interesting up and down kind of a movement that is happening pranically. These sounds were heard differently by Panini, and so when Panini was meditating in the forest, he heard there were few sages in fact who were meditating on Shiva, and Shiva comes and he plays his damaru, and when he plays his damaru, they hear, each sage hears the sounds of the damaru in their own way. So Panini, since he was a grammarian, he heard the Maheshwara Sutranis as the different letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. And I'd like you to see that and tell me what you observe about it. So again, I will share my screen. Can you see that? So these are known as the Maheshwara Sutrani. And the Maheshwara Sutrani is nothing but a rearrangement of the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. So I'll say it and you repeat after me. Okay. So A, I, Un, Ril, Rik, E, Ong, I, Ouch, Hayavarat, Lan, Nyamanga, Na, Nam. So I'll slow that down. Nya. So repeat after me. Nya, Nya, Ma, Nya, Ma, Nga, Nya, Ma, Nga, Na, Nya, Ma, Nga, Na, Nam. I'll repeat. Nya, Ma, Nga, Na, Nam. Moving on. Jha, Bhai, Gha, Dha, Dhash, J, B, G, D, Dash. The next one you need to take a nice breath, but we'll break it and do it also. Kha, Pha, Cha, Tha, Tha. Ch, T, Tav. I'll repeat that once and we'll try and do it in one breath. Kha, Pha, Cha, Tha, Tha, Ch, T, Tav. Try that. Ka, Pai. Sh, Sar. Hal. What I'll do once more is just to say it all and you can just listen to what it sounds like put together. Okay. So, A, I, Un, Ril, Rik, E, Ong, I, Ouch, Hayavarat, Lan, Nyamangananam, Chabhai, Ghadadhash, Jabagadash, Kapha Chatha Chatatav, Kapai, Shashasar, Hal. Now, using this permutation and combination of the letters, Panini created his entire grammar, the entire treatise of the Ashtadhyayi, which is in 8 big adhyayas, 8 big chapters, and which comprises of almost 4,000 sutras. So by just modifying the different combinations of these letters, he was able to do that. I will give you an example of the application of this. So one thing that is very important for us to know is that when we are studying Sanskrit, the way we are doing it in the introduction to basic spoken Sanskrit, we are learning the software of the language, which is just about the usage of the language. This language also has the hardware component. And what is the hardware component? The hardware component is comprises, or it consists of Panini's Ashtadhyayi rules, the sutras. So for example, if you have the word balakaha gachati, if you break it down to its root forms, it comes down to the root of the noun, or the pratipadika of the noun is balaka. Now, when you say balakaha gachati, when the boy is going, the boy is the subject. So Panini's rules will tell you, sasajusho, no, it just tells you that you will add, I have to add the suffix which is sup. Okay, so balaka plus su. Then there's another sutra which will tell you that the su, the per drops, the su becomes r, the u drops, and the sa becomes a r. The r becomes a visarga. So there are different steps by which you understand how balaka becomes balakaha in the subject case. Similarly, there are different suffixes that are added on which turn into balakaha, balakam, balakena, which you learn in the vibhakti forms. Okay, but it suffices to know that there is a hardware aspect, a very, very elaborate aspect, which one needs to be studying constantly if you want to be a grammarian of Sanskrit. But in order to utilize this language, it is enough to even be familiar with the software, the applicational aspects of this language, and which is the focus of the classes I do. Okay. Now, where does this come handy? Okay. So, how does one use this? And there is another kind of a sutra of Panini, which is, I'll try and draw it out for you. So it is Iko Yan Achi. This is a sutra of Panini's. Now, when he's saying Iko, he implies the sound ik. So I'll be switching back and forth a little bit so that you can see this. Now, this is just to understand. We are not going to be studying Panini, but just for you to appreciate how just the permutation and combination of the sounds has facilitated the representation of the grammar. Okay. So what are the sounds that are involved in the ik? Tell me, what are the different letters that come into the ik? Anybody? I think you can unmute also and tell me.
E and K.
Huh?
E and ik.
Yeah. But now with ik, what they are meaning, what Panini says, when he says ik as a sutra, he means it is take from the letter E to K. Everything that comes in between. So which are the letters? E?
E, na,
Brilliant. Pariyaptam. Okay, so Iko Yan. Yan is the other abbreviation. So what is Yan comprising of? You come from here.
Ya.
R,
Na.
Ya, Va.
Yavarat,
Ra.
Yavarat,
La.
Okay. And what is Ach?
Ralava.
Satyam. What is Ach? Ach.
A-O-A-I-O.
Satyam. All of this. So now what does this to ch represent in the Sanskrit alphabet?
Swara.
Swara. So it represents all the vowels. So by saying ach, Panini has created a whole meta language where he has used these abbreviations to be signifiers of certain things. So the moment you say ach, one has to understand that he's referring to the vowels. If you say hal, so hal can either mean her to la, the entire consonant group, or it can just mean the last hal. This is the only place where the her is duplicated. Okay, but hal can signify on one side the entire consonant group. So by ach he signifies the vowels, by hal he signifies all the consonants. And now let's see the rule in itself and what it is doing. So we have this rule where he's saying Iko Yan Achi. So what all were there in ik? I will write it here. Iko. So I, U, I, Un, R, So there was an e, a, e, un. So the n should not be taken into consideration. Can you see this? If I put on the screen, are you able to see the other screen? Are you able to see the Maheshwara Sutrani?
No, no.
No, no.
No.
All right. So I'll just go back to the Maheshwara Sutrani and show you that. Sorry. So if I say what Panini says is that if you have ik, then you do not take the consonant. The consonant is only a marker. It is not to be calculated.
Okay.
It's not a factor to be
Calculated.
calculated. So ik means e, u, ril, ril.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Telugu Panini Sutra we are not able to see properly.
I will go back to the
Okay.
board. Right now I've come to the Maheshwara Sutranis. Okay.
Okay.
So we have, when you're talking of yan, it means ya, va, ra, la. You don't take the ta,
Yeah.
nor do you take the na.
No.
These are just signifiers of the ending. I mean, they are just markers of the ending
Okay.
of a sutra. They are not to be taken into consideration. And similarly with the ach, you only take the vowels. Now what is happening here? So we see you have e, u, r
R.
and l. Okay? So that is by ik. And then by yan, it was ya.
Yara lover.
Satyam. Ya. No.
Yeah.
Ya. Va. Not in that order. Parul, it's a different order.
Oh,
Ya.
la.
Satyam. Okay. Ra. Ish, mine's so bad. Sorry. Looking really bad. Okay. Ya, va, ra, and la.
La.
Okay. And by ach we mean we mean etc. So all the vowels. Okay. Now what is this happening, and what does this sutra now tell us? Let's look at it grammatically. And this grammar, you're being introduced to it, you will understand.
Eka prashna Bhagini.
Vadath.
The consonant starts with k, kha, right? So when we say ach, how is that he's saying leave till cha?
So ach is a, e, un, ri, rit, a, om, I, ouch.
So only from the Maheshwara Sutra he is saying take
It's
that.
only from the Maheshwara. So the Maheshwara Sutranis are nothing but a rehashing of the letters of the Varnamala.
Okay.
And a rehashing in a manner. So there was a mathematician who did a calculation to see what is the optimum reorganization of the letters in order to get the minimum number of sutras to cover the maximum content of the grammar. And he found that this reorganization of the letters is the optimum possible in order.
Okay.
So mathematically, it is a wonder that if you reorganize the letters in this way, then it will allow you the minimum number of combinations to formulate the entire Ashtadhyayi. Okay, so
Dhanyavada.
fascinating, yes. So what is this saying? So this is saying ikaha, which means after ik. No, of ik. Ikaha means of ik. Yan happens. Achi pare means after ach. This is the whole grammatical thing. Take baad mein, but that you don't need to worry about that. All it says is that if an ik is followed by an ach, it will turn into a yan. What does that mean?
Sandhi.
Yeah, it is your
Yan.
Sura Sandhi that is happening here. So if you have a word like asti plus atra, so you have an e followed by an a. What would happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
This becomes a ya. Right? So it becomes, what is the final answer for this one?
Astyatra.
It is asyatra. Got that? Let's take another one. Let's take another simple one. So astu.
Sorry, Anuradha, can you just repeat this one? I also lost you. In between.
Sure.
Just do repeat how you got to Astyatra.
So the rule. So this is the sutra. This is the sutra of Panini. So this is how he represents the grammar. And this particular rule has to do with the phonetic connection, means the sandhi. So and this is just an example I'm picking out to show how did he use the rearrangement of the letters to explain Sandhi? So he has a sutra which is Iko Yan Achi. What does Iko Yan Achi mean grammatically? It means that Ikaha, of ik. Ikaha means of ik. And if you do the intermediate course, you will understand how grammatically it is formed. Huh? So it says Ikaha Yan. So ik becomes Yan. When does it become Yan? After an ach. After an ach means it is after a vowel. After any vowel, if there is an ik, it will turn into a yach, ach. It will turn into a yan, respectively. So e will turn into
Not after.
e will turn into a year, u will turn into a v, r will turn into a r, and r will turn into a l. So we have now, where is the application? We look at an application of that. So we have, for example, asti. So asti, let's break up asti. It's a very good point, because the beauty of the Sanskrit thing is that everything can literally be broken down into smaller components, and I will show you how. So asti is a composition of the sounds plus s plus t plus e. Okay? And then here we have a plus, and atra would be then a combination of plus t plus r plus a. Astu. Now what happens to, so what is the rule? Now that's where you apply the rule, that if you have an e, if it is followed by an a or a vowel, it will turn into a y.
Yeah.
So ast e. So I'll break this down here for you also. So you keep the rest of it the same. Ast. Okay, you keep all this the same. Ast plus now ya has come in there. Plus
Yeah.
at the end here, it becomes plus
Ra.
tra. And you put it together, it becomes astyatra. Okay. Like I said, at this stage, we do not need to get into this part of the Sandhi. It will be part of the second level course that we're doing. But why I have explained this is just to help you understand that the letters themselves, how they're used to form this meta language, which formed the grammar of the Sanskrit, which has enabled the sustainability of this language across time. So astu atra, would you like to do that for me?
Yatra.
Then go slow. One thing with Sanskrit is you never need to hurry. You have to be very slow. You have to be very slow. If you are slow and you're correct, the chances of going wrong is almost nil. Because you just have to follow if, then, if, then. So, u followed by an a. What happens to an u followed by an a? It becomes a v. It becomes a, yep. Okay, it becomes a v. So you get us. V. Okay, so that plus v plus tra. And the beauty of doing this is you can apply it anywhere after. Once this works, it will work for every single context of this nature. So it becomes astu. Now, if I say, let me just give you an example, give you an exercise. Supposing you say asmi atra. Asmi atra.
Asmi.
Asmyatra.
Asmyatra.
Gachami adya.
Shamyadya.
Uttamam, done. Uttamam. So besides the rule also, there is a whole phonetic logic to it that you can apply. Astu. So this is the aspect of the how the Maheshwara Sutranis gets utilized to write the whole of the Sanskrit grammar. I mean, it's a fabulous. In fact, when the fathers of computer came across Panini's, Charles Babbage and all, when they came across Panini's Ashtadhyayi, they said it was like we were reinventing the wheel, because the entire system is if this, then this, which law will follow, which law will precede. If this doesn't work, then the entire system of grammar has been built on that. Okay, so that is about the grammar aspect. And moving on, we see that the sounds of the letter themselves, where am I? The sounds of the letter, of the letters had their own power. The rearrangement of the letters allowed the formation of these very complex texts. And the next part of it that I will touch upon briefly, and then we'll take it up next time, is one that you have been introduced to now with the Sanskrit vibhaktis. So it's important for me to just touch upon it. We did do it a little briefly last time, but I'll just touch upon it again today. So you have boy goes. So when you have the boy goes, you have an image that is forming in the left brain of, in the right brain. It's the simple sentence, boy goes in language, and you have the image of a boy going. As and when you're asking the other questions, with, whom, where, how, why, from, where, when, you're answering each of them, then there is a picture in the right brain that is getting more and more clear. So you're adding the details to the picture in your right brain. The sentence that forms from there is, the boy goes to school from home by cycle in the morning at 8 with friend. Now let's look at what is happening grammatically, and I'd like to hear your thoughts also on this. So you have in the English language, first and foremost, the number of words adds up to 18. But if I just told you the word school, and in your right brain, you would not exactly know how is that school related to the boy? Is he coming from school? Is he going to school? Is he going off school? We don't know what's the relationship. But the moment I say to school, the preposition, then it becomes clear that, acha, that is the destination. From home, oh, that's the place from which it is starting. But in the English language, therefore, you have these, what I call at least, the free-floating words like school, home. They are not complete in the meaning they are conveying by themselves. They need to connect with a preposition in order to make their entire sense available to the speaker as well as to the listener. In Sanskrit, what happens, that preposition is collapsed into the word itself. And in what manner did they collapse that? They recognized that there were these 7 forms of the vibhaktis, 8 with the vocative. So what were these 7? The first they said is that you can't see, right? I'm not even sharing. I'm only seeing it myself and I'm talking. I'm so sorry. I'm wondering, none of you told me anything. Okay, so I'll just go back to the slide quickly, and this is what I was talking about. That while on the right, in the left brain, you have this very basic sentence and you're asking these questions. In the right brain, you're forming the image. The image of that is getting clearer and clearer. That, when you form the sentence, becomes in this way, the boy goes to school from home by cycle with friend to study in the morning at 8. And these together have 18 words, and you have to keep the prepositions are independent. There are just 1 or 2 like boys, the genitive gets taken into the word, the noun itself. But otherwise it's independent. So I was saying in Sanskrit, you have about 7 cases. So you have the first one, which is everything is. So recognizing that things are. But then I'm not the only one who is. There are others also in the world who are the objects of my existence. So these objects is the second case. Okay. That object case also becomes the destination when you're using the verb to go. Go where? It is the destination. So that also is considered there. The third one is I am and other things are there. We do something with each other. The with is your instrument case or the tritiya vibhakti. So prathama vibhakti is existence. The dvitiya or the second vibhakti is the second case is the one when you're doing something that is the object of your being. The third one is when you're doing something with. That's the third case or the instrumental case. The fourth one is if you have an exchange, you give something to. So it is the dative, okay, or the chaturthi vibhakti. Then the fifth one is you therefore get something from. So you give to and you get from. And that is the ablative or the fifth case of the panchami vibhakti. And finally, whatever you're giving or getting has to belong to that individual. So that belonging is your genitive case or the shashti vibhakti. And then you have the whatever belongs to you has to be in or on. So it is the locative or the saptami or the seventh case. Okay, in on. Now these, I'm giving you this just to understand the logic of why there are 7 or 8 with the vocative. So the last one is just a recognition that it is there. Nothing more, it's there. Okay, that's the vocative. There are more technicalities, but I will not get into it. But it just will help you understand that these are the kind of relationships in which the world around us can be organized. And when we're looking at the vibhaktis in the different lessons, we are trying to understand in what cases, in what are the instances when these particular vibhaktis can be applied. All right. And the most important thing to remember is that it is the collapsing of the preposition into the word. So we have the word, the sentence here, which is boyah. So this is my Sanskritization of English. What is important is even if you don't remember the vocabulary, gradually if you start getting the Sanskrit structure, then that is very beautiful. So boyah goes ti, third person, I told you it's coded. Schoolam, homat, cycleya. Why cycleya? Because I have taken the feminine word. Dvichakrika is a feminine word in Sanskrit. So I've kept that form. Friendena, with the friend. So that's your neuter word there in the third case. Studyaya, for study. Morninge, in the morning. 8a, at 8. One aspect of this is the genitive. The genitive here can go along with any of that. To school. To whose school? To my brother's school, for example. So, brotherasya school. Whose home? So, the genitive seems to be adding the second layer. It's not directly connected to the verb. It gets connected to the second layer. So, once you've answered the main questions, then on that you will add the genitive there. Okay. Whose cycle? Whose friend? Then that's up to there you can add. Okay, so the Sanskrit itself is balakaha gacchati vidyalayam grihat dvichakrikaya mitrena pathanaya pratah kale ashtavadane. Okay. You can, at this stage, because by the time you come to the 20th lesson, there will be a lot of practice of all of this, because by then you will be familiar with all these forms. But just here, what you now realize is that, what are the benefits of this? So if the noun is dependent on an independent preposition, or rather the preposition is external of itself, then you're forced to retain the order of the words. I cannot say boy, to, home, from, school in this particular sentence, or from, friend, with, school. You know, you can't do that. You have to stick to a particular order. Now the requirement of sticking to a particular order has particular impact on our thinking. So I'll leave that open to you to just during the week think about what are the implications of this. In Sanskrit, because the words are independent in the meaning they are conveying, they can be organized in any order. So like we were discussing initially, that the languages we using are also having an impact on our mind stuff. So what would be the impact of being able to shuffle words around? What would be the impact of having to say it in a particular order? What would be the psychological implication? So I'll let you think about that. Taradi's done a very nice, colorful picture for me with the Devanagari of the whole thing. So when once you've got your Devanagari, you can also practice this. Try reading it up. Okay, so Balakaha, and you can say it in any order. And so, what is it doing in your right brain when you are connecting everything together? Like when you know the entire sense of the word. So this is something that I wanted to quickly touch upon, and I will leave you to think about it. And next time when we meet, we'll talk about that in greater detail. I am not always very good at doing the revision part of it, but I would, I'll look at it. So we have been doing the very quickly because we have a guest with us today, and I wanted, till where have you done the lessons? And if there are any questions, maybe I'll pause here, and if there are any questions specific.
I've done lesson 7.
Yes, Taradi?
I've done lesson 7 now finished. Lecture 7.
Astu. It does, you know what happens, even if you're not completing all the basic, it doesn't matter. But like I said, please enroll for this, for the intermediate in any case, because I'm doing a lot of revision also in the beginning. So it's not that if you need to know this and only then you will be able to start that. So even if you side by side accompany this with the learning of the new one, it will there will be a continuity that you should be able to follow. Okay.
Madam,
Yes, please.
who is the authority who is simplifying the Panini grammar in today's time?
So we've got a lot of scholars in Sanskrit Bharati. So you can't really simplify Panini's grammar in that sense. You have different texts like the Siddhanta Kaumudi, the Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi, etc. They are standard textbooks of Panini's grammar, where you are exposed to the topic-wise, you will be exposed to the sutras that are relevant to that particular
Topic.
combination or that particular. So we're studying the Karakas, which means the Vibhaktis. Then you will have the sutras that are relevant for you to understand that. So Samskrita Bharati has got small booklets where they are, addressing these different. So Samasas, you'll get all the different sutras that are connected to that. Or Karakas, you will get all. Sandhi, you will get all the different sutras. So those are texts, but I think they are in, they still are in Devanagari script and in the Sanskrit language. One would have to have a little bit of base to be able to access those texts.
I have heard the name of Pushpa Dikshit.
Pushpa Dikshit ji is also there. Yes. So there are some scholars around who are trying to present this knowledge in a simpler manner. Okay. But the grammar, the Panini's grammar, so what they say is that if you spend 6 months extensively to study, to learn up the sutras, once you've learned them up, you've mastered them, you are safe with the language for the rest of your life. You don't have to keep learning. But you have to have the dedicated way. So it's a one-time huge investment and you will be a master of the language. But then one has to find, but one has to also keep in touch with the grammar. It's not such an easy thing to do.
Samskrita Bharati has different courses too, like for the beginners, I think every 6 months they conduct some.
With Panini?
No, not just Panini, just to begin with Sanskrita.
Yes, that Pravesha and
Yes.
the level correspondence course.
Yeah.
About classical Sanskrit, not for this Panini.
Not Panini, yes.
But they're based on Panini Sutra because you need to understand to read and write in the language. The questions or anything is actually based on writing in Sanskrit.
Yes, now that is the whole thing. So you have the software part of it.
Correct.
And in the software part of it, we can have the, in the software part of it, you will have, what do you say?
Usage. Usage of.
The usage of it. So the usage is enough. You don't need to know Panini's grammar very specifically to be able to apply it.
Yeah.
It really is the software-hardware relationship.
Yeah,
So
but probably if we understand how it has come, it is more easy to remember.
You know, exactly. Yes. That also I would say is a temperamental matter. So different people have different temperaments. Some people need to know what it is originally to be able to apply. But some people, it's just enough to know, one form. Like I said, with Sanskrit, you need to memorize one form and you know it for all the rest. So that investment is one word per category, and see the patterns.
Yeah.
So with this, I will pause for now, because I mean, for those who've been asking me about the Guru Dakshina, I told you that I will connect you to different organizations and I will get them to come and just share with you what they are doing. So today I've got Siddhant Ghosh, who is from Rescue, and he's the founder of the Rescue and Relief Foundation. So he'll just very briefly explain to you what they do. And if you'd like to, contribute to that cause, please, as a extension of what you want to offer me, you can please pass that on to them. So I will request Siddhant to start sharing.
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Firstly, thank you, ma'am. I think it's amazing when I hear you every time, the amount of passion that you have for Sanskrit. It's superb. And again, ma'am, thank you for giving my children this opportunity, this platform to come and introduce ourselves in this place. And before I start, I would also like to mention this, that ma'am, she has been very kind and she has done a lot for my girls and for our children. And from entire my team, all my children, all my grandparents, I would like to thank ma'am first for doing what she has always done for my children. I'll share the screen. My screen.
Yeah, we can.
Yes, visible, Siddhant. I mean, listen, yeah.
Okay, so we were established informally. We were established in 2013, and in 2015 we thought of making it an organization. So in 2013 we only started with one boy, one orphan child we started, and fortunately today we are reaching out to around 757 children beneficiaries. That includes children, grandparents, and everything. We are also registered. Trust. We are registered with 12 and ATG. We are also working with the government in this pandemic situation. We have done a lot of work with the government, with Niti Aayog itself. We have been recently recognized on the International Women's Day for working on women rights by IISER Kolkata. Also have been recognized by IIT Kanpur for working on child rights. We are based in Kolkata, but we are a nationalized organization. So all the beneficiaries that we have is across the country. So maybe we have an office in Kolkata, and our homes are more or less in West Bengal, but we bring beneficiaries across the country. So our website is rescueandrelief.org. People can visit the website. I'll quickly talk about the projects that we have. The main work that we are doing right now is on human trafficking, and specifically on girl children below the age of 18 years. We are trying. What we have is we have the largest rehabilitation home in entire Eastern India. Currently, in my home, we are having 131 girls. This is close to a place called Narendrapur in Kolkata. There we have right now 131 girls, but due to the pandemic, another 160 girls are in waiting. We want them to come to our home so that we can take care of them. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic and a lot of wrong things have happened of Amphan, and so we were kind of stuck with our resources. So we are trying to look for new people who can join us in our family. Other than the trafficking home, we also have 2 orphanages, come rehabilitation home for boys. Total number of boys we have around 90. From the age of, I think the youngest one is now 3 months, and we have till 18, 19 years. Next, we have 3 old age homes also. One is in Kolaghat. It is another district of West Bengal. It is in Kolaghat. It's a place in Paschim Madhepur. Then we have one in South 24 Varganas. This is the home which was most hit by the Amphan cyclone. So the entire, I will share some photos also. The entire infrastructure actually went down. Then we have another home in Kanpur. It is just beside IIT Kanpur. We have it in the backside. If you have been to IIT Kanpur, it's just beside IIT Kanpur. In overall, we are having around 120 grandparents. Other than this, we are supporting a home for special children who we always, people call them disabled, but they're very special. So we have around 70 boys there. Then we have another very good project where we are encouraging bright students who are from very underprivileged family. Probably his father is working in some farm of someone else, so he's a farmer and working in someone else's land. But this boy probably has done and got 80% marks in his class 10th or 12th and doesn't know how to proceed. So we guide them, so we get them into our rehabilitation. We have a home for them, and we try to get them tuitions. We put them into colleges. There's one of my boys right now is studying in IIT Guwahati. He's studying MTech there, I remember when he came to us in class 12, and he couldn't do anything. Like, he didn't have a good communication skills, nothing, and now he's doing pretty well. Other than this, we also work for cancer children, and cancer children in the sense till the age of 9 years. We are working with Chittaranjan National Cancer Institute, that is here in Kolkata. So we are sponsoring 7 kids out there. All the medical expenses like chemotherapy, radiotherapy, all the medicines are being taken care by us. And again, we are also working with children of sex workers, because children of sex workers are very vulnerable. And what we are trying to do is stop second generation prostitution. So we have something called a drop-in center, a crisis center. I'll just quickly brief this. Drop-in center is a place when the mother is going to work, she can drop the child to our center so that the girl or the boy is not exposed to the environment. Because in a red light area, the major situation is, as I said, it is a matter of a choice. Like a doctor's son become doctor, an engineer's son become engineer. In the same way, we have seen that in many cases, sex workers, children are becoming sex workers. So just to stop second generation prostitution, we have something called drop-in center, and crisis center are for sex workers who are working in night. For them, we have so that they can drop their children in the crisis center and they can sleep. Because we have come across, I'll just give you an example that one of our friends that so the mother was working as a sex worker and her child was very perfect. So this kind of environment creates a very wrong psychological impact on the child. And other than this, we have a lot of vocational training for boys and girls that we are running, from tailoring, from diagnostic training, from nursing, electrician ka work, then electronics ka work, mobile repairing, TV unit repairing. So all this kind of vocational training work training we are providing. I'll just like to quickly, because Rescue Relief is mostly known for our work for trafficking. So I would like to share a journey of a girl who was probably trafficked at the age of 12 years. Her name is Pooja. So this place here in Bengal called Malda. So when she was 12 years old, she was trafficked by her uncle. So it happened something like this. First, the uncle came to her mother and said that, see, I got a job for your daughter. And the job is to clean ATMs in Payada, which is very close to Malda. Okay. So, and the mother left it, and for 6 months the girl was working in ATM, cleaning the ATMs and everything. After 6 months, the uncle went back to her mother and said that, okay, now let's take her to Delhi. The opportunity in Delhi is it's more. You will earn more money, and you will be able to. So with more money, you will be able to better handle your family. So the mother, because there was a confidence building was done, she agreed with the uncle, and the girl Pooja was sent with her uncle to Delhi. The moment Pooja came to Delhi, she was immediately trafficked. So in our world, we have something called broken down period, where the mindset of the child has to be broken before she has been put into prostitution. In trafficking, there are various things. So there is prostitution in red light areas. There is child pornography. There is escort services, massage parlors, drug trafficking, organ trafficking. So a lot of things are there. So in this case, this girl was put into prostitution. So what happened is, she was from Delhi, she was moved to Shimla, where the broken down was done. So around 40, so what happens is, during this period, around 40 to 45 days, the girl is being kept in a very small room where the girl is physically abused, till the girl gives up mentally that, okay, I cannot come out of this world, and then she's been put into a red light area. And for Pooja, it was around 40 to 43 days. After that, she was put into Kamathipura red light area in Mumbai. So where she was working as a sex worker for 2.5 years. So at the age of 15, she was rescued at that point of time, and she came to our home. And fortunately, she was just having some kind of sexually oriented disease, nothing major. We have many cases where our girls are pregnant at the age of 15. We find children suffering with HIV, children suffering with various diseases, very serious diseases, sexual oriented diseases. But in case of Pooja was lucky, she was only suffering with only sexual transmitted disease, and so she came to us. So we did her fooding, shelter, clothing. So she went back to education. She went back to schooling. Actually, she was also part of her school also. So she went to, I think when she came, she was in 11 that point of time. So after around 6 months, 7 months of training, she went back to education, normal schooling. So she completed her 12th. She sat for national, so this exam is called CLAT. It's a national level examination for law entrance to get chance in national universities of law schools. So, and in her first attempt, she actually cracked the exam, and right now she's studying in Lucknow, National Law University, Lucknow, and she's into her second year. So this is one story of how things happen in our world, of dark side and the front side. If you can see the photographs, so you see the vocational training. So the second photograph is, if this is in Presidency University, these are some of my children. The second photo on the left hand side is of my cancer unit, so it is there. So we also have grandparents in our home. So grandparents are thrown out of their house. I think everybody has heard of it. So we try to put them into our homes, try to give them at least a dignified death. So at least till the end of their life, they live a dignified life. So that is what we are trying to do. Now these photos are of the Amphan cyclone that hit us during the month of May. And that point of time, like the entire, so all these boundaries, all the walls actually broke down, and all these are part of our homes that you see here. So right now we have half of it have been constructed, half of it are in process of being constructed. Now that brings me to the like I always say is that we are Indians. I think we are privileged, and somewhere down the line we were just lucky enough to be privileged, and somewhere down the line it is our responsibility to reach to underprivileged and reach out to them and give them an equal opportunity like we have got. I think everybody here in this platform is educated enough to understand, and I do not need to elaborate on that. But what we will be doing with your support is it's food, shelter, clothing, education, which is the most important aspect of anybody's life. Counseling and psychological support. So we have to do a lot of counseling to our girls, because the kind of environment that they have been exposed to, and when they come back, they are in a very terrible state. Means if I had a little more time, I could have explained it. But the situations of the, even if you can imagine, like when you were 15, think of you being pregnant with a child, and what kind of a mind structure you are into if you were working, the amount of fear that you have for people. Again, we are rebuilding actually from the cyclone. And so 3 of our homes were completely devastated. So we are building on that. So we also require funds for that. And again, and it is a continuous support that we require. I think what pandemic has done is we used to have around 19,000 donors and everything was running smooth. My children, everybody were running, all the projects were running extremely smooth. But after the pandemic happened, all the business people, they went off. A lot of people lost their jobs, and now people put their priority before my children, and that has actually what has stuck us, and where we are stuck right now. So our projects are actually lack. So there's a huge lack of resources in probably every field. But if we get support, and if our children get support, they shine. And I always say this. So these are few examples. I have hundreds and hundreds of examples. So some of it, one of my, as I said, is studying in IIT Guwahati. One is studying in LNU Lucknow. One of my girl is working as an assistant photographer. So she was trained in photography in vocational training, and she's working as an assistant photographer in Colors Bangla. Colors channel, I think everybody must have heard. Our children are working in Yonex. Yonex is the badminton company or the sports brand. I think everybody must have heard. Then Westside is a very popular retail brand. So there our girls are working. Ajanta Footwear is one manufacturer that are employing our girls. Even one of my girl is a part of an international dance group where, so she has studied dance. I think that photo has missed. So if you, I'll just go back with one slide. Yeah, so if you can see my mouse, so this girl here she's Yasmin, and she's of an international dance group for last 2 years, and she's been doing extremely well. She's extremely successful in her career. So what I want you to understand is these girls, everybody, not only girls, my boys also, they require opportunity and support. If the opportunity is support, if given to them, I think they will shine like our children, like my brother, like your son or your daughter. So what they have gone through is terrible. You cannot even imagine any of your relative being going through what these girls have or what these children have gone through. So recently, we just before I end, I'd just like to say that recently 15 years back, we brought a child from from a dustbin who is around 15 days old now. We are talking with adoption. So this child was found in a dustbin, and it's a very common thing. So these children, they deserve equal opportunity like us, and I always say like this. So these are certain ways where, so we have a very good, very easy, very smooth monthly programs. It starts with as low as a cost of a coffee, that is 330 rupees per month, where you can help a girl give vocational trainings, and then we have, if you can little further extend, for 550 you take a responsibility of a child for her education. Again, for 880 you can support the child with education and counseling, which is again equally important. For 1210 rupees, one girl gets her medicine, education and vocational training. All of them are equally important. For 1600, one girl gets food and shelter, and 2200 per month, one girl gets food, education and shelter. The entire registration process is very smooth. You can just simply log on to our website, Rescue and Relief Foundation. Just simply Google Rescue and Relief Foundation. You come to know the amount of work that we have done in last 5 to 6 years. You just go to the donators page. In the Girl Children program, you will find this this easy way. We also encourage one-time donations. That is also welcome. All in the website. I would request you, please, if you could come forward and do something for my children. I will be honored. And if you support, you get an exemption under section 80G. So that is tax exempted. You get a receipt of it. If it is a monthly program, you get it in the end of the financial year. If it is a one-time donation, you get it in a couple of days. You will receive a report of last 3 months. So we send reports of last 3 months. So the work that we had exactly in last 3 months. So it is not a. So we will come to look at last. And every month you will receive a case study of a child that you are supporting. So how the children are proceeding and everything you. So and anytime if you are here in Kolkata, you can come and meet the children. I will be glad to host each one of you. My children, actually nobody comes to visit them, so that is another part of the story. So we encourage people coming to our projects and spending time with the children. With that, I'll stop my presentation. Let's come together to make a change, because alone we cannot do anything, and that's all. My numbers are given there. My project manager is Ayushman Mukherjee. You can contact him also. And thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this opportunity.
So I just would like to add that Siddhant and his wife, both of them are extremely, I mean, very young. They could have done many other things, but they're passionately dedicated to this cause, and the stories are heartbreaking. I mean, really. So if whatever way that you can, and he also visits places and gives talks. So if you would, if you know of organizations that are encouraging this kind of work, then you could invite him. Basically, even if there is different people add on, I think it will be a great help. And personally, since I also think that these are important causes to support. The Sanskrit, one side is this personal development, but the other side is how we can also reach out to society. That was very much part of our integral, the understanding that we are all connected. And that's what this philosophy is all about. So in whichever way we can add, but importantly, change ourselves, change as much as we can to the world around us. So which are, and like I said, I've got 3 others. I'll invite Mahabalacharya from the Gurukulam to talk to us about the kind of work that they're doing at the Gurukulams for Sanskrit, for culture. And I have the other friend, Sudeshna, who will be talking about what they're doing for children. So wherever you feel like contributing, participating, please do so. My requirement is that you are teaching one more person Sanskritam. And this is the Arthika part of your seva to society. Astu. So Siddhant, all the very best. Shubham Astu.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
With these, I suggest you join us for the last part of our session, which is the recitation of a mantra. KVCG, you're by chance sharing your screen. Could you please stop sharing, stop presenting? Thank you. So we'll just end with the Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, which means may all the worlds have sukha or excellent spaces.
Thank you.
And we'll end with that. And Om Shanti 3 times. Chalo. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.